Birekoth Shalum. This is BG from RTB, and this video today will be a runoff from the last Fruit of the Spirit video, Love. And what I want to speak on today is loving your Ishshah, or your wife, which is a very important thing. And as I continue on, I will be getting into that. But let's get on to the verse. Let's go to Bereshith, or Genesis, chapter 2, verses 20 through 24. And this chapter and verses is going to be the foundation of this video. Okay, so let me go ahead and read it. So the man gave names to all the livestock, and to the birds of the heavens, and to every beast of the field. But for man there was not found a helper for him as his counterpart. So Yahuwah Elohim caused a deep sleep to fall on the man, and he slept. And he took one of his ribs and closed up the flesh in its place. And the rib which Yahuwah Elohim had taken from the man, he made into a woman, and he brought her to the man. And the man said, This is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. This one is called woman, because she was taken out of man. For this cause a man shall leave his father and mother, and cleave to his wife, and they shall become one flesh. So this is the foundation of the lesson, and I got one flesh in the bold caps, because later on you're going to understand why I put it there. It's the reason why I put it there. So now, this is a verse that a lot of men or husband uses to treat their wife unjustly. So let's go to Ephesians 5:22 through 24. Or let's see. Okay, let's start with verse 22. Wives, subject yourselves to your own husbands as to the master, because the husband is the head of the wife, as also the Messiah is head of the assembly, and he is Savior of the body. But as the assembly is subject to Messiah, so also let the wives be to their own husbands in every respect. And this is one of the verses that, like I said before, again, a lot of husbands use to berate their wives, to treat them unjustly, to treat them less than human and everything. That it says that we are the head. We are the head, but it's a way that we deal with our wives, you know. So and a lot of times they just stop right here, but they do not go further on to verses 25 to 33. Now we get to verse 25. This tells men, husbands, you know, how they should love their wives, you know, because if you just leave the first part, the last verses that I read, if you just stop there and not read the rest, you won't get the whole understanding of what Ephesians chapter 5 is talking about. So starting with the 25th verse. Husbands, love your wives as Messiah also did love the assembly and gave himself for it. Alright, so husbands, we have to love our wives as the Messiah loved the assembly, or as people call it, the church. Alright, the Messiah gave his life for the assembly. You know, he treated the assembly kind, and he nurtured them and everything. But let me keep on reading verse 26. In order to set it apart and cleanse it with the washing of water by the word, in order to present it to himself a splendid assembly, not having spot or wrinkle or any of this sort, but that it might be set apart and blameless. In this way, husbands ought to love their own wives as their own bodies. He who loves his wife loves himself. For no one ever hated his own flesh, but feeds and cherishes it, as also the master does the assembly, because we are members of his body, of his flesh, and of his bones. For this cause man shall leave his father and his mother to be joined to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. All right. Just as we are members of the Messiah, members of his body, his flesh, and his bone, when man and woman come together, they become one flesh. They become one flesh. All right. And from what I get from this is that we must, as husband and wife, we must read the word together and be nutrified in the word together. All right. So we can be as a couple, as one flesh, we can be presented to the Most High as a splendid assembly, not having spot or wrinkle. By us, the husbands and wives, reading together, praying together, like it says, you are become set apart and you are blameless. You know, it's nothing wrong. You are a different couple than anybody else because you are set apart in the Most High. Because if you love your wife like the Messiah loved the assembly, you know, we would love and cherish our wives, and we would read the Bible with them. We would study the Bible with them. You know, we would be kind and nice to them. And like, since we're one flesh, like it says, why would you hate your own flesh? You know, it says that let's see. Yeah, the husband, you must love your wives as you love your own body, and that no one ever hated his own flesh. And you have to understand, again, like I said, when the man and woman come together, they become one. So you are one flesh, and you should, if you do not hate yourself, you should not hate your wife. All right, love your wife as you love yourself, because you are one flesh under the Most High. All right, but this is basically self-explanatory. All right, but continuing on to verse 25 to 33, and it says, "This secret is great, because I speak concerning Messiah and the assembly. However, you too, everyone, let each one love his own wife as himself, and let the wife see that she fears or reverence her husband." All right, so again, it goes on to state that we should love our wives as we love ourselves. All right. And before I continue on, again, I want to tell you that I'm taking these verses out of the from Ishshah, from the Scriptures 2009, which again is similar to the Hallelujah Scriptures. All right, just to let y'all know that. So again, you know, we must love our wives like the Messiah loved us, because they use a comparison of the Messiah loving the assembly, or what people call today the church. You know, they comparing that to how we as men, we as husbands, are supposed to love and treat our wives, because again, we are one flesh, and we have to remember that we are one flesh. You know, we have to remember that we're two separate people, because you got to remember, when we're married under the Most High, we are one flesh. We are together as one flesh, just like we are part of the body of the Messiah. Flesh of my flesh, bone of my bones. One flesh. Alright, so this is another verse that husbands use to treat their wives unjustly. And it's Colossians chapter 3 verses 18. And it says, "Wives, subject or submit yourselves to your own husbands, as is proper in the master." Now, we also like to use this also. Say, well, y'all underneath, just to treat them bad, to say they're underneath you, to kind of have them as indentured servants to you, you know, and we're not really treating them right. But again, they don't go further to the next verse, which is verse 19, which says, "Husbands, love your wives and do not be bitter towards them. And a lot of men are bitter towards their woman, their wife. They are bitter and talk down to them and treat them like trash. Alright, so you're supposed to be following the Bible. You're supposed to be married to the Most High. Well, in Ephesians 4:31 it says, let all bitterness and wrath and displeasure and uproar and slander be put away from you, along with all evil. Alright, and you have to remember that your wife is also your neighbor. Your wife is also your neighbor. Not only your neighbor, but your wife is your flesh. Y'all one flesh. And you see a lot of men angry at their wives. You know what I'm saying? Putting them down, slandering their name, calling them out their name, telling them they worthless. Telling them you listen to me, they like it's some type of dictatorship. The relationship between the husband and wife is not a dictatorship. Yeah, the man takes his position as the head, but the head must be kind also. The head must be understanding, and the head must lead by example. And no wife is going to respect you or reverence you if you're always bitter with her, if you're always wrathful with her, if you're always displeased with her, if you're always in an uproar and you put her down. And we are supposed to be a different type of people if we follow the Most High. And if we are in a marriage, we need to treat our wives better. Alright, there's no excuse for the way some of us do our wives and how some of us present our wives like they're our pets or they're our art exhibit, if you know what I'm saying. So now let's go to 1 Peter 3:7, and it says, in the same way, husbands, live understandingly together, giving respect or honor to the wife as the weaker vessel, and as being heirs together of the favor of life, or the grace of life, so that your prayers are not hindered. Alright, so here, alright, again, men, husbands, we have to be understanding of our wives. We have to give them respect and honor. Alright, because they are the weaker vessel. And you also remember that we are one flesh, and together we are heirs of the favor of life. And also, if we treat our wives right, we are in the word together, and the wives do what they supposed to do, live towards the husband according to the word. Your prayers will not be hindered. But if you and your wife are on two different playing fields, you treating her bad, she don't respect you, or she's doing the best she can to respect you, but you're just constantly slandering her, the prayers is not going to be heard, no matter how holy you try to be, no matter how much word if you're not treating your wife right, if you're not doing your wife within the word, within the realm of the words of what they say, your prayers will be hindered, because again, you are one flesh. Alright, so you and your wife have to be in agreement. Y'all have to follow the word and treat each other as the word say, for y'all prayers to work, for your prayers not to be hindered. And that's a big thing, because many of us might think that our prayers are going through, even though we're treating our wives like crap. But it says right in the word that your prayers will be hindered. Alright, your prayers will be hindered if the husband don't do right, if the husband is not doing what he's supposed to do for the wife, if he's not being a true head. It's not a dictatorship. Alright, it's a partnership. Alright, your woman is your helpmeet, not your slave. Your wife is not your concubine. Your wife is just not any other girl out in the street. That is your woman, that is your wife, that is your bone of your bone, that's the flesh of your flesh. You two are one flesh, and you should treat your wife as you would treat yourselves. And if you treat yourself good, you treat your wife good, because it's commanded by the Most High. It's commanded by the Most High. Alright, so that's that's about it. I just want to do a little short little lesson on husbands loving your wives. All right, because as it says in Genesis, we become one flesh. We leave our father and mother and join together and become one flesh. And we must cleave to our woman. All right, we must cleave to them. All right, we cleave and we become one flesh. We treat each other with honor and respect. Man, we be the nice, decent heads that we're supposed to be. We do not downtrodden our women. We do not call them out their names. We do not embarrass them, but we cherish them and we nourish them. We make sure that we're praying together. We make sure we're reading and studying together. So we can be presented as a set apart couple. All right, so we could be presented spotless and blameless. And a lot of us out here, we just think because it says we the head and the woman's beneath us, but that don't mean the woman is your stepping stool. That don't mean your woman should be trampled over because she is the weaker vessel. Because the Messiah didn't trample over the assembly. He gave them kind words. And he gave them the truth. And he didn't even cuss out the lady caught in adultery. He even stopped the people from stoning her because they was with sin. And he just told her to go sin no more. Men, we have to stop being dictators over our women. We have to love our wives like the Messiah loved the assembly. We must love our wives like our own bodies. We must love the wives as we love ourselves. And there's also vice versa for the woman, but this is not about women, it's about men. Because I see a lot of people on YouTube, a lot of people in life that claim they, for the Most High, claim that they believe in the Bible, and they still cheat on their wife. They still call their wife bees. They still talk down to them and treat them like animals and everything. And treat them like any type of slut that's out on the street. And just know when you're treating your wife that way, that you are also treating yourself like that, because you are one flesh. You might not think you feel it, but under the eyes of the Most High, you two are one flesh. And you're harming yourself, and you putting a blemish on your relationship. You're putting a blemish on it by being the way you are. And we are called to also be humble. Men, we are supposed to be humble and loving. We're supposed to respect and honor our women. Not bring them down. It doesn't matter. We found out the truth about Hebrew. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that we found out the truth about life and what it is. We don't have if we find out the truth, we should know how to treat our women. And the way we treat our woman dictates our prayer life, or how it goes, if the Most High is going to answer the prayer life. So no way that the Messiah walked all over the assembly, treat them like dogs, tell them one thing and then go do the next thing. The Messiah was also always truthful with the assembly. He was always kind to the assembly. And he most definitely loved the assembly till death, because he died for the assembly. Which means we must be willing to die for our wives if we love them, if we say we love them. We are one flesh, and one flesh presented to the Most High. So we must remember that. So that's about it. Man, get it together. It's lessons for me too. Because as we do these lessons, we're digging in and we're seeing and we're applying things to our lives also. So we're not coming like we know it all like some people do. Like we just know it all. And that we're just pure and that we do everything right. Because, you can follow the law. You can follow the, you can do all the holy days and all that and follow all the laws and stuff. But if you're not living your life, if you're not living your life with love and other things, all that stuff is just for show. The Pharisees did that. The Pharisees and Sadducees followed the laws and stuff, but they treated people wrong. They used people like a stepping stone. They twisted the law to get what they wanted out of it. You know, and we must not be like that. If we're going to follow the Bible, we're going to follow all the way through. And that includes treating our wives right. That's what that includes. Alright, so that's about it. I hope y'all got something from this. This is BG, ROTB, Repairs of the Breach. Y'all take it easy. Birekoth Shalum.